Today is a very special day, I feel, and a very, very special day and very special guests. So we have Swarnalakshmi Ravi with us, joining us from India, and John Book with their session around children Teal pioneers. And just to set a bit the stage, who are we actually? Who are these two people, and why I'm so excited, maybe? So Swarnalakshmi has been part of Children Parliament since over 12 years, has been the National Child Prime Minister of India, and in this role has been speaking in front of the United Nations 4 times, and has influenced, together with other peers and other people from the Child Parliament movement, to child policies in India. John Book, as said, joining us from Washington, is the former CEO and founder from Governance Alive, co-author of the book Governance from Below: Can Children Lead the Way? He has translated the governance system of sociocracy from Dutch to English, is currently the chairperson of the NGO Governance from Below. And both of them have met 2018, and this is how their journey started together. And yeah, without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to both of you to share your story with us, and maybe answer the question: Children Teal pioneers, is that utopia or is it real? Off you go.
Thank you very much, Carolyn, for such a wonderful introduction. So greetings to everyone, and happy to be here amidst of you all. And I'm Swarnalakshmi. Here we have John Buck speaking today with you. And we would like to present to you about this children, Teal pioneers. When I first heard about Teal organization, I was pretty curious to know what Teal means, and then wanted to discover who would be the natural pioneers to Teal. And it occurred to us, both John and me, that from our experience, children are the natural Teal pioneers. And so therefore, we thought we could share that with you as a presentation. We'd like to share it by talking about Provisional World Children's Parliament, the Teal organization, organized by children and adults together. And we would be emphasizing mutual leadership throughout our presentation. And this Provisional World Children's Parliament, just to give you a context, was established during July 2020. And yeah, over to John Buck to continue that.
Let me share my screen here. We are saying that children are pioneers because they are able to see things that adults cannot see. So we have a quiz for you today, a fun quiz, hopefully, a puzzle. A puzzle might be a better name. And the puzzle is to explain how these statements are true. The 3 statements are true. And I'll give you a moment to look at it and think about it, and then I'm going to try calling on you to see what answer you might have. So give a moment. Can we ask you first, Saskia, how are these statements true?
To be honest, I'm not really good with numbers, but I just figured out like, okay, so 6 plus 1 plus 3 is 10. So it's like 1 and you leave the 0 out, and the next is 20 and you leave the 0 out. But the last one doesn't work with that. So I couldn't find the scheme in that.
How about you, Frank?
I think I could look for many mathematical patterns, but I think the answer lies somewhere else. So sometimes I can maybe look from the other side, from the top down, and then they're true. I don't know. I haven't figured out the puzzle yet, but I'm quite curious.
Caroline, how about you?
Yeah, similar like Saskia. I'm also very curious to hear the answer.
Okay. So the last time Swarnalakshmi gave this quiz, there were children, there were teenagers, there were adults, and there was the older adult, a 90-year-old. And the children less than teenagers all got the answer, and the 90-year-old got the answer, and nobody else did. Because children, and I guess 90-year-olds, are able to see things that are not necessarily what the adult framework has. So the answer is that the 6 has a circle, so that's 1 circle. The 8 has 2 circles, that's a 2. There are no circles here, so there's a 0. And the children can see that because they're not formatted to see this as equations where you add and subtract. So children have something to bring to adults, things that they can see. Here's another example. This is a true story. An engineer and his 8-year-old daughter were out to go for a drive, and they ran into a situation like this. This is not the actual situation, but a truck was stuck under the bridge. And the father got out and put his arms, we call it in English, arms akimbo, like this, like these guys are doing here in the picture, staring at it and wondering what to do. And he said to his daughter, "We're going to be here for hours." And the little girl said something. What did she say? She said, "Dad." What did she say? Frank, do you have any idea?
I need more time.
Wonderful
Wonderful color. I like the yellow.
Saskia. Caroline.
Well, I mean, looking at the picture from this side, I mean, my question would be, was there also a sign on the other side that that the person knew that it's too low? I mean, lower bridge, what does it mean?
She said a very simple thing. She said, "Dad, why don't you let the air out of the tires, and then you can move the truck forward." So children can see things that adults can't see. That's another example. Here's an example of something that children could see and the adults couldn't, and the children had quite an impact. This comes from a video called "Power to the Children" by Anas Kersting. And the children are from a local children's parliament in India. A children's parliament is neighborhood-based, and we'll talk more about it in a minute. But the children saw what's over on the right-hand side here, which was all over the place, which is plastic bags. And it was a terrible problem. It was made very ugly. And in fact, in India, you have cows that can roam the streets, and there were cows dying because they were eating plastic bags and, you know, getting their bellies full of them and couldn't live. So the children were out parading, and you can see the people over there on the left watching them were doing nothing, but the children were out saying, "Get rid of the plastic bags." And they managed to get the town of Kanyakumari down in the southern part of India to say, "Okay, we're going to forbid plastic bags." The Swarnalakshmi, did they all go and stand outside the city hall building, or what? How did they get that attention? Do you remember?
Yes, they first went and petitioned it to the district official, and then the district official announced and accepted the proposal and announced that the district is not going to use plastics anymore, and that's a tourist spot, and so many tourists come. So the district official decided that they're also going to prohibit the tourists from using plastics and protect the ecosystem of the place.
And then the idea spread, and now throughout India, there are lots of municipalities are prohibiting plastic bags. So the children saw and the children acted. They were part of the political process. And so, all right, let's take another look here. We understand that Teal around the world is starting to work with children. We would like to see these pictures are from the Teal Around the World website, and we would like to see children there too. So we're going to talk about the Provisional World Children's Parliament because we're trying to enfranchise the voices of children. I will say briefly that children, when we were in tribes of 150, had a definite part in the society. They might be guards around the camp at night. Even when we had lots of farms around, they were definitely a part of everything. They were taking care of the animals and so forth. Today, they've become kind of beloved burdens until they go into college, and then they're excluded from working in society. We think we can correct that. So let's go and look at what is the vision, mission, and aims of the Provisional World Children's Parliament. The aim is very simply children everywhere be heard and heeded. And the mission is for them to empower themselves as children by organizing and participating in, promoting neighborhood parliaments, or spaces as they call it in Africa now. And the aim, what they're doing, what they're providing is all kinds of voice for children, coordinating children's activities, calling attention to issues. A lot of children's parliaments, as they originated in India, focus on the strategic development goals, the UN strategic development goals. And the PWCP, Provisional World Children's Parliament, uses a method called sociocracy, which is what I discovered in Holland and was able to transmit it over to the people working with the children's parliaments in India, Father Edwin John particularly. And that both the spirit of it as well as the use of sociocracy builds trust and transparency, collective intelligence, wholeness, and authenticity, which are the Teal values that as advocated by Teal around the world. And Swarnalakshmi, how did this fancy sounding language come to be? Was it who put these words up here?
That was put together both by children and adults. And this is a very good example of things that were seen by children were not seen by adults, and things that were seen by adults were not seen by children. And therefore, both of them came together and put together this wonderful piece of vision, mission, and aim statements for the Provisional World Children's Parliament, which is a beautiful outcome. And so, for example, if you see in the vision statement, you can see that children everywhere heard and heeded. And initially, it was not like that. The first version built by children had children are to be heard. And so it was the adults who saw something that, well, it could also be children everywhere heard and heeded. And they, without threatening the children, they got it to them, the adults got it to them through the system of sociocracy. And so the children were able to accept whatever the adults saw and proposed. And so that's how the fancy language of, and also the wonderful language of children everywhere heard and heeded came. And then down below, if you see maybe in the aim statements, probably the third one that says, recommend concrete solutions. And so initially it was like, recommend possible solutions. And so it was the adults who said, recommend possible solutions. But the children came forward and said, why can't we recommend concrete solutions? And so the children were able to see here that what the adults were not able to see. And so they brought confidence. And through the system of sociocracy, consent-based decision-making system, they put forward their proposal in a way such that the adults heard it and accepted. So therefore, mutual leadership supported this vision, mission, and aim statement a lot in existing. So
I'm going to move to the next slide, Swarnalakshmi. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, we've got the next slide up.
These are the lists, I mean that the names of the countries that are listed here are the countries that are participating in the Provisional World Children's Parliament. And we have the United States, Cameroon, Greece, and India currently with us. And we also had initially children from Nigeria, South Africa, Ghana, Guinea, Tanzania, Chile, and the United Kingdom as well. But the children from there got graduated. Several of them got graduated like me. And now they're the youth allies of the Provisional World Children's Parliament. And we are also, our main aim is to get recognized by the UNICEF and the United Nations. And so that's our main aim. And we also right now have initial connections with UNESCO and UNICEF. And if you can see to the lower left, am I correct, John?
Yep.
To the lower left, then there you can see the picture of the federated structure.
The federated structure is on the right. Yeah.
Oh, right. Sorry. Sorry, what is to the lower left, if I can
The
ask?
lower left is the picture of the rings of children sitting.
Oh, circle. Thank you very much. So if you could see there, that's the way that we function as children's parliaments. And so these provisional World Children's Parliament started from the neighborhood level, as you see in the circles. And so I was one among them, sitting at the age of 10 with all of them and discussing the issues that we saw around us. And so that's how we, and if you see the circles, the children are organized not by the grades that they study or the grades that they belong to, but they are organized by their neighborhoods. And so the neighborhood mattered a lot for us, and we developed the peer contacts with each of us, each of our neighborhood. Like we were coming from long distances, and so, but despite of the fact that we were able to be a little closer depending upon our neighborhood, and so therefore we were able to connect. And through that federated structure, I got elected at various levels of its federation in various other responsibilities. Like, for example, starting from the communication minister in my neighborhood to the finance minister in my state level parliament, and then got elected as the state level prime minister, and then became the national level prime minister of Children's Parliament. And right now I'm supporting the provisional World Children's Parliament to get more children and get it recognized by the United Nations. And also, after becoming the national prime minister, I got the opportunity to represent not just one or two children, but millions and millions of peers like me in the United Nations for 4 times. And so that taught me something, that we as children can do something. And so that motivated me to also support the provisional World Children's Parliament. And our dream is that one day there will be a global parliament system there where a child is elected to the role of World Children's Parliament Prime Minister. And outstanding children like Greta and Malala have received wide international attention for their outspokenness and bravery. But they'd be even more effective if they were selected by the children of the world to speak for the children of the world. In fact, you may not be aware that Malala was a child minister of the 5th federated level of a children's parliament system in Pakistan when she was shot. So, John, I think we have got to the next slide.
Okay.
So this is the Zoom screen that shows many people gathering around. So as you saw in the schoolyard picture, this is the top level, the world level Children's Parliament. And this is the World Health Day celebrated by the Provisional World Children's Parliament, inviting experts from the United States. It was a judge and then a lawyer from the United States. There was also the mayor was invited. And then we had a person from the UNICEF India. And so this shows that children can do things when they're supported, when they get the leadership, when they are put together in a system of children's parliament and sociocracy together. And so the World Health Day was pretty special because it was coordinated by children in 4 different countries And then it was summarized on a summary event. The recommendations on each topic was summarized by children and then put together as a summary event where they invited 3 UNICEF experts, 3 UNICEF people from 3 different UNICEF. So each UNICEF was from each country. And so that's the power of children that you can see. And over to you, John, to conclude it.
So this concludes the presentation. If you're interested in more information, you can contact us at pwcparliament@gmail.com. There's a website, wcp.earth, that was composed and put together and is run by the children. We will stop calling it a provisional World Children's Parliament when we get around 20 countries and get a firm connection with the United Nations. We'll see what happens then. We look forward to your thoughts and questions at this point. Caroline, let me turn it to you if I could. I'll get off of screen share.
Sure. Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing and giving us all the insights. All right. So I had a lot of questions before. I still have a lot of questions, and I have noted a couple of more questions down. So let me just start with one, and then let's see that whenever you have a question, just speak up, and we can have a little conversation and really make the most out of the time with John and Swarnalakshmi. So my question, and something that crossed my mind multiple times when you were sharing, is this whole topic around trust. So trust within the children to actually feel confident we have a child joining us. Christian has brought maybe a future child parliament member. Fantastic. So trust from within, in the sense like, really feeling confident to go out there, to point in the direction where they see injustice, but at the same time also trust from others. Can you to actually give them the voice? Because you said empower or allowing children to move from possible to concrete. And maybe Swarnalakshmi and John, you can share us a little bit more about this whole trust process. How does it work? What are maybe factors that hinder it? What helps it?
Do you want that, Swarnalakshmi, or you want me to take it?
Feel free to take it.
Okay. So the trust does not, you should not have to ask for trust in order for you to start something or to build a children's parliament or any decision-making process with children or adults. Trust should build. And the key thing for trust is the consent decision-making process. Consent is not consensus, it's not majority vote and so on. It's when you go around to each person and say, can you consent to this proposal? Or you say, do you have an objection? Or you may say, is it good enough for now, safe enough to try? But you go to each person and you're asking both intellectually and as well as reading people's body language. If I'm a facilitator and I see somebody say, yeah, no objection, and they're looking down like this, I'll say, looks like an objection. We'll come back to you. And then we come back and say, what's that about? Your mouth and your body were disagreeing. And everybody gets a voice in what the policy is of the group together. So if the children think, well, we should have a parade and protest against plastic, and somebody says, that doesn't feel right. We hear about that and we hear what they're saying, and we use things like both and thinking to say, all right, you have some doubts or you would think it's more effective this way and you're uncomfortable with doing it that way, and you work it out. And the process builds trust, it builds equivalence, it builds everyone's voice is heard. Anything to add, Swarna?
Sure. Maybe one thing to add is that one of our children parliament the World Children's Parliament members in our experience once said that, he doesn't have any objection. And then when he was validating it, when he was, giving reason for it, he said, well, he feels comfortable with the leadership. And then whenever he feels, discomfort, he's able to say that, and he is getting a chance to say that. And so therefore, he simply wants to follow the leadership. That's just an example of, how we dealt with trust. And it's also about, as John said, one of the parliament members brought an objection saying, we had an argument about should we need to put the pictures of children on the website, because below 18, it seemed like the safety issue came in. So the children's pictures might not want to be there. But the children had the objection that we may want to have the pictures, but in what way? It should not contradict the safety issue. And so the objection was brought in, and it was very much welcomed initially. So she said she feels comfortable about welcoming the objection. And then when we decided that, okay, what if we have a sketch, like an emoji created on behalf of the picture, and then put that emoji there. So each one can create their own emoji for themselves. And that created like that improvised the thinking, and also as well as created the trust.
Thank you so much for explaining. I see a hand by Frank. Do you have a question?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and all your stories, really igniting a lot of more curiosity. Before I frame the question, maybe where I'm coming from, I think we have also quite a nice audience here, even if it's a small group, right? Saskia is like the person who did like the most for I don't know who has did more work to prepare this festival than Saskia, right? And I just found a Teal around the world, GMH, and I just understood you, John, a little bit like you were referring about what we are talking outside Teal around the world, right? What we are presenting there, and fair enough. And I think walk the talk is kind of close to also the heart of Carolyn, I know. So I'm not sure whether do we walk the talk or do we want to walk the talk together in the future. I'm just also like heading to Purpose Lab before, where we co-created or used the collective intelligence, right, to find some challenges for our future. So there's a lot of opportunities also to connect people and move forward. And out of this context, maybe my question is, I've heard a lot about government, that's kind of organizational body from this point of view, and I've heard a lot about skills, not education is word, but capabilities, like the power of, I think, children before they go into school. That's my experience. And then how they are just caught by the system of school. So I would be interested, like how you think this relates together, this entity, school, like early school, maybe in kindergarten, and also this government. I mean, maybe you can share some more insights. What is some kind of actionable future where we could maybe together get into some impact, or I don't know, whatever comes into your mind. I'm a little bit like, I need some clarity there.
If I
Sorry,
could
it was really specific.
If I could repeat back my understanding of your question, you're asking, what's the relationship between empowered children and the government? And how does this relate to schools? When you go into school, you start getting formatted. Are those your questions?
Kindergarten or even before, right? Any legal entity which is like directly in the contact with the children. And then there's the government who set some kind of governance rule or the curriculum and all what you said, right? I mean,
Swarnalakshmi, you might want to speak about the neighborhood aspect of the children's parliaments and how that also relates to schools. That might help starting to answer Frank's question.
Yes, I was intending to do that. Thank you, John. So, I mean, in schools, we have, although we join in and we simply go and study our extracurricular activities, especially by having children's parliament and having a forum for children to speak, I think that gets them empowered. So that's how, like in my school, that's how it started. So when I was in grade 6, people came and said, well, do you want to participate in doing something? Always it interests, as my experience, far as I have experienced, as a child, I felt very comfortable and very happy to, if somebody comes to me and say that, you know, you have the ability to help someone, and that would really boost me, encourage me, and motivate me. Yes, that did, of course. And that's how I joined the children's parliament that was organized in my school. And then it further went up, but I was organized based on the neighborhood that I live in, at least closer to as close as they can, that we were organized by the neighborhoods that we live in. And when the system was taught to us, we were able to implement that even in our educational system. For example, the consent-based decision-making system was something that I tried implementing in my education system. Whenever I try asking a question, I make sure that the question doesn't go or I don't make anyone feel uncomfortable, or I try to get everyone's voices and opinions for that question. And whenever there is a project that comes in, I try to give out the leadership rather than domination, and maybe support the leader. Those are the qualities that I was able to implement even in my education system. And some educational qualifications, like for example, I'm actually preparing for civil services exams to crack it. And that gives me a lot of insights as in how to geographically approach things, and maybe a little bit about ecosystem, climate change, or it introduces me to different conventions, and I'm able to introduce it back to the children's parliament. That's how I'm able to connect it. And in fact, my children's parliament experience was woven as a dissertation. That really helped me a lot in international relations when I did that. When I did my master's, I was able to do that. So that's how I perceive. Did I answer your question? And or John, do you have any other thoughts as well?
Let me just add from a different perspective. The basis of the whole system is what we call governance from below. Gandhi has a wonderful quote saying, democracy shouldn't be ruled by 20 men sitting in the middle, but by all the villages. And so if you are doing an upward governance system, you start federating up, and like in the state of Kerala right now, there's a few 100,000 neighborhood parliaments of adults, and they elect representatives to, that's maybe 30 families, very small areas. 30 families elect 30 representatives to go and sit together. So that now 30 neighborhoods are connected, and then 30 of those connect to the next level. And in the state of Kerala, they were starting to connect at the fourth level, and the government got kind of freaky, so they stopped it at the third level. But to this day, many of the politicians at the local level in Kerala are women, because they were so involved in the neighborhood parliaments, which is the only state in India where that's the case. They ran into similar resistance in the Netherlands when they started to try to build from the bottom up, more resistance, in fact. Children, however, are able to federate up, and the politicians don't feel threatened. Children can be very charming. If 300 of them show up and say, we need a bridge in order to be able to get to school and not have to go through the creek, then they listen. There's many stories. If you go to children singular parliament.in, and I can put that in the chat. There's a wonderful website there that has lots of stories about what children have done in engaging the government and getting the government officials to listen. The Sonic group, I think there may be a presentation about Sonic at the Teal Around the World presentations. I'm not sure. I saw Ted Rao was going to talk. I'm not sure if he's going to say anything about it. But in any case, there's an Erasmus grant right now that has 9 countries studying what they've done in the state of Kerala and India to see if they can replicate it in Europe. So the overall framework of this is this governance from below, an alternate system to empower everybody. The children are leading the way in this, and that they can do it and not threaten the existing political establishment much better than adults can. I hope our 2 answers addressed your question.
As mentioned, I think my question was not specific, but I think it was really valuable that you have got 2 perspectives. So I just tried to get a deeper understanding. So
okay.
Thank you so much for elaborating. And
thank you. I think it's really hard to imagine how a children parliament looks like. And frankly speaking, 4 years ago, I also had absolutely no idea. I had the pleasure of visiting them, working with some of them. And it is a really amazing feeling to meet these children. I don't know how to put it in words. It's just a super amazing feeling. And thank you, John, for already touching on a couple of examples. Because I feel when we talk about children parliament and we hear about marching and, saying we need to stop plastic, it sounds like there is a lot of talking behind it and demonstration, but it's super concrete. They really point out really concrete injustices that they see, just like John said, building bridges, repairing streets, organizing bicycles for kids that can't go to school and it's too dangerous. Like, it's really, really concrete things. When we look at a sociocracy, it basically means rule by people with a social relationship, to break it down the easiest way. And in India, we have over 200,000 parliaments, neighborhood parliaments, I think. I don't know how many children parliaments are existing, but this is, of course, a fertilizing ground that really empowers them because people are still close. Swarnalakshmi, you're connected with so many children parliaments across the world. How do you see this in comparison? Do you see that it's more challenging to establish children parliaments in other countries, or what is your experience with that?
There may be some challenges, but breaking the barriers and getting together is something that, as John said, children can do, and they are testifying it in the Provisional World Children's Parliament. Like, for example, they're building up in Africa, so each may want to adopt it in their own context. For example, in India, we can sit together in circles and we can just have a playground. A playground is, more than enough for us to sit, and we don't even need chairs, but maybe the children may want to think a little bit more in European countries, because a playground is not sufficient as it would be snowing all the time, or maybe most of the time, I would say. Or maybe if they want to sit, they cannot sit down. They may want to sit in chairs, and so those would be the different contexts that they may want to think. And as John said, Sonic is just studying those different possibilities of how they can replicate it. And some of the other things that children are doing can also be done by children in different other countries. For example, building bridges, building libraries, getting the, we in fact had an experience that when the district officials said they may not be able to issue certificates, that the adults were struggling to get the certificates issued for tribal children, which would really help them to get their education pursued. The children were able to pursue the district officials and get it across just in 3 months, when the adults struggled with for 10 long years. And so these are things that children can also do and may not have hard challenges in doing so. So depending upon the system, it really varies. And John, do you have anything else to add?
I think that's right. There are some children's parliaments in the U.S. And they work. They get together. There needs to be training of the adults who are the adult allies. The the children in Chile were able to have some input into the new constitution that Chile wrote, and it seems to be a pattern that is recognized and respected in many different cultures.
Thank you so much. And you already said it, Jan, that you're currently working also on the book Governance from Below, Can Children Lead? Do you want to, and I mean, you did tremendous research, visiting different countries and, you know, picking up these factors. Can you give us a bit more insights, if possible?
I'm co-authoring it with a man named Alphonse Meklo, who is from the Cameroon and has a 19-year UN career. And it's been lots of fun writing with him and comparing cultures and all that. I really wanted to be able to announce that the first few chapters were available in LeanPub tonight, but we've had some troubles, but soon they'll be there. The term that Swarnalakshmi used of mutual leadership is probably the fundamental theme of that book. We document a lot of things happening with all kinds of initiatives for supporting children, involving children around the world. And we point out that adults also have little kids sitting inside them and inner kids, and that the challenge is for the formatted adults who we saw could not see, you know, the pattern in that arithmetic problem at the beginning, to get them to listen to what children are saying, not in a paternalistic way, not like, oh, I'm taking direction from you, but as partners, part of the one tribe, as I believe we once did. You know, so the children and the adults together can see different things, and things are so complex today that we have to have the view of children to be able to get through.
Sure. We have another question. Great.
Is it okay? Okay.
Yeah,
Actually,
please go ahead.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with Kate Raworth's donut model. Maybe take an example, like children are quite impactful from my perspective on ecological factors, like having a long-term thinking. When I was just on Jamaica with the beach, same thing. People live from the hand in the mouth. Adults don't care about the nature. Children care more because maybe they have more things. And I think they can, become quite impactful on ecological factors for sure. I would be interested, is there also something like more on the social side where you have good examples, like domestic violence, people, like sometimes children, I feel like they are blunt, right? They just speak up without any concerns. And they say like this, it has to stop, right? My parents fighting, or I don't know. I just was putting an example for the social factors more there. Are there any problem statements? Or, I mean, I got what you're doing. I just wonder, right, what are the key problem statements where children really are not impactful as to be abused as children because it's a nice narrative, but that comes from the inner heart and from their natural, right? And yeah.
Sure. Would it be okay, John?
Sure.
Would you like me to take up, or would you?
Go. Yep.
Sure. So social issues are also addressed by children. Thank you so much for asking that question. So, for example, children have stopped child marriages, child labor practices. For example, my colleague, when we were all working together, he rescued 22 child laborers and put them in school back. And so that's one such example. And social issues such as domestic violence is, yes, of course, alcohol is a great issue. Like, for example, the parents tend to drink alcohol and the children were able to stop, and they were able to, by creating awareness, the children were able to close nearly 300 wine shops. And so alcoholism was a big issue, and their own parents were just, drinking and coming back home, beating their mother and beating them. And so those atrocities were slowly stopped by children through the children's parliaments. And so, in fact, through the children's parliament, they were able to point out the law that prohibits these kind of practices. And so the law threatened the parents in that way as well, that they stopped doing things and they stopped fighting at home and things like that. So we do have a strong example of how children stop the child marriage. Maybe in one case, in one of the districts in Tamil Nadu where I live, a girl named Gayatri was arranged to get married. Even her engagement was over when she was 15. And so she was about to get married, her parents were about to get her married to a 45-year-old man just because they had debt. And so the children parliament came to know about it, and we took up that issue to the girl's parents. But again, it was not so easy to resolve. The girl's parents refused to listen to the parliament, and the parliament had to take this issue up to the grown-ups and civic authorities. And with the support of civic authorities, they were able to come home to the parents, make them understand the effects of child marriage, and also they were able to pinpoint the laws that prohibit child marriage. And eventually, the marriage got stopped.
Wow. I thought like maybe one example, it's like you brought like 5 or 6. I don't know. I couldn't even count. Wow.
In Africa, there's a similar case in Cameroon of the children being forced to work in mines, and the children managed to stop it. In the United States, there's a variety of causes, like trying to get food to the people in the town that they're hungry and so forth, that they've worked on. So lots of the focus on the strategic development goals that the UN has means that you've got social and environmental and governmental issues being pursued by different parliaments.
Thank you both. And it also comes down to education, right? Educating these children, what are their rights, what is right, what's not right, that they also can speak up and say, well, this is not right, in regards of all kind of injustices against children. Swarnalakshmi, just a quick question. You said earlier, people can do things if they get the leadership. And you also pointed out that we do have some really popular voices right now, like Greta Thunberg speaking up about climate change. And you said things would be, or could be much more, they could even have an even bigger impact with the work that they do if they would be, elected by the children. Do you want to maybe deep dive in this a bit more? And thanks, John, for sharing. This is basically where we find further examples, right? And stories on the website. John?
I don't think I understood the question.
John, you just posted a link in the chat. This is where we can
that's the website that has a lot of resources about children's parliaments. That's in India. And I just was putting in the website for the PWCP.
Okay, thank you.
That's more information.
Great.
Sure, Carolyn. And so, yes, of course. I mean, when children get more leadership and more support, the mutual leadership can really make them think beyond, and they can, of course, get into the system more easily. For example, I remember one of the girls in our children's parliament saying to me that, initially it was, I don't know how to join and how to talk about social issues, but then as and when she started talking with people, she understood not just issues of her own, but issues of her peers from different backgrounds, different milieus. And so that just helped her to understand or get a better context. For example, had it been me, as I said, had it been just me going to the United Nations and talking about the children, I would have really dug into the website or in any of the internet sources and, talked about whatever was there in the internet saying that this is what has happened. But because I was able to join with the Children's Parliament, although, to me, I would just like to share my own example. I was just very limited to my home and school. And then because I'm a visually, like I was born blind, and then I was not treated, I was just treated only within the school circle that I lived in. And so there was pretty much exclusion. But as I joined Children's Parliament, I was able to get more context, I met many people like John Buck, and I was able to interact with them, get their perspectives. And then when I spoke at the United Nations, it was really powerful, and people wanted to know more, especially when I lobbied with the ambassadors. The ambassadors were very much relied on the experiences that I had more than what I talked with them. So the ambassador was nearly 50 countries, ambassadors were there, and to whom I was able to lobby both individually and as well as together as group. So most of the country ambassadors were very much wanting to know and excited even to know more about the experiences I've had in the Children's Parliament, like the child marriage issue that I pointed out right now, and what are the social issues that the children were able to resolve, and what impact that the children could make was something that they were wanting to know. And so that's how some of our recommendations were in fact accepted. We were able to contribute a little bit during the release of the SDGs. And also when I was in Geneva, Switzerland, I was able to talk about human rights, and as well as point out a little more on allocating more percentage from the country's GDP as promised, and that was also recommended to our country. So I was able to participate in the Universal Periodic Review, which we say, so that happens once in 4.5 years, where we can, like each country would point out to the other that what the other country may want to do, depending upon the report that the country presents, by hearing from experts and NGOs. So that's how we got many countries submit around 6 to 7 recommendations from children to the Indian government. And some of it we heard were fulfilled and taken up in the policy-making body.
Thank you so much for sharing. John, anything from your side on this matter? How children that are currently, out there in the world doing good could have even more impact if they would be having these authority given by the children?
Right. I think that the impact is needed. There's obvious things like the environment, where the UN just issued a report saying it's almost too late to avoid huge catastrophes. The latest reading I have seen is that it may be only 3 to 5 years before we see a 2-foot rise in sea levels because some glaciers about to collapse in Antarctica. And so the children are making noise around that, and the children may be able to galvanize action. If they were better organized right now, they could be galvanizing action and getting attention. There is a lot coming from the cybernetics revolution, the IT that are changing things completely. There's biological revolution that's happening. What's going to happen when they start playing with coming up with cyborgs for people and so on. There's a lot of policies that need some really original thinking, and we very much need children helping cut through the complexities to find obvious and effective solutions. So they're needed. We just simply need this ability of children to see through things to help get us through all the multiple crises we're facing.
Thank you. Time is running so fast. I can't believe it. We have four more minutes. I have one last question, but I wanted to give also the opportunity if any one of you wants to ask something right now.
Just curious, there's a few people on the call that we haven't heard from, curious as to where they're from and what their thoughts might be at this point.
Sure. Carsten, I think you're calling in from Germany. Not sure if you can hear us.
Sure, I can hear you.
Oh, great.
I don't,
Hi.
I don't have any thoughts. I just have to get I don't have any questions. I just was interested in about the topic.
Great. Thanks for joining. Then one
Thank you
last
so much.
question from my side. What's your hope? What's your wish for the future? What do you want to have happen?
I can
I
speak
know it's a very open question.
from my side, lots of support for trying to organize more children as quickly as possible. There's some complexities involved in what if they don't speak English, and how do you get enough translation, and do they have in Africa particularly, we've run across the problem of children having to really watch how much they could speak because their cell phones were using data up. And so being able to solve those connection problems and get support and training adult allies to help make this process available to children, we could use lots of support there.
Thank you, John. And you, Swarnalakshmi?
Could you repeat your question if I can?
What's your vision? What would you like to have happen? What should we do? How should the future look like?
Maybe the future, I envision something that we all have, like in each children's parliament, like one day when we get together, maybe in a couple of Teal conferences afterwards, when we get together again, we may want to be able to say that, oh, well, we have a child representative from my own country. So the child representatives are gathered along with their adult representatives, and maybe in future, they all get together in the World Children's Parliament, and as we have the UN General Secretary, we do dream of someone from Children's Parliament as Child Prime Minister getting together with the UN General Secretary, talking about what are the perspectives of children and what are the issues faced by them, confronted by them, and how we could tackle them. So that's just my vision on the future. Maybe, yeah, as John said, it'd also be nice to initiate that. Maybe our next immediate steps could be, how do we support children, and what are the ways that we can improve the funding so that the Provisional World Children's Parliament can move a little bit further in terms of having an administrative support and having more experts brought in so that the children will be able to gain an understanding of different subjects so that they can, again, talk about it and so on.
Thank you so much, both of you. Thanks to everyone who is in the room right now. I personally feel super inspired. Thank you to everyone who's watching this recording, and thanks to both of you for taking the time, for inspiring. You said keep the conversation going, make sure that we bring children on the table, and yeah, make this a worldwide movement. Whoever wants, we're going to continue our conversation in the spatial chat. So if you want, we can move there, mingle, exchange with others, and yeah, continue to think how we can make our.
I would have just one question, and then I need also to step out, and we're not so many people, and maybe the bridge to spatial is not so easy for you, Swan. I don't know. I mean.
Oh, I'm Swarnalakshmi. Sorry,
yeah.
what's.
You're fine with spatial chat? You have used it before?
Can you repeat your question? Sorry, I didn't.
He's asking if you're okay with the spatial chat where you kind of wander around a screen to find people to talk to.
Oh, I have not accessed it before, but I'm happy to try it out. And
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, thank you for inviting us.
Thank you so much, Carolyn, for moderating us, and thank you everyone for listening to us.